Assalamu alaikum students. Welcome to the kinesiology course. Today I will start the neuromuscular coordination. This is very important aspect in our daily life. We are performing so many activities from day to the night. Like we are brushing our hair, we are brushing our teeth, we are eating something, we are walking, we are driving our cars, boys are riding their bikes, we are delivering lectures, you're writing something, you're using your mobile phone. All these activities are coordinated activities. And these are produced by the combination of the nerve and the muscles. So this chapter, this lecture is all about these coordinated activities in our daily life. And if a person is not able to produce these coordinated activities, how we can treat those patients? So in today's lectures, I will go through the introduction of the coordinated movement, the factors which are responsible for the coordinated movement. The one is the muscle, and the second one is the nervous control. After that, I will give you the brief introduction of the incoordinated movement and the causes for those incoordinated movements. So, what are coordinated movements? Whenever we perform any activity in a smooth manner, and that activity is very accurate and fulfill the purpose while we were performing. So all those activities are, or the movements are the coordinated movements. This very simple example is, suppose you are eating something and you're going to put the spoon in your mouth. So if you are able to hold that spoon, add movement at the shoulder, elbow, you're holding the spoon and putting that spoon in your mouth. What you are doing? You are doing a smooth coordinated activity. It's accurate. If the spoon is going to the mouth, it means it is accurate. If it is, you are not able to put into your mouth, you are putting into sides. This is not accurate. So if this is smoothness and accuracy, and the purpose was to put that spoon or the rice into the mouth. So if you are able to do this activity, you are able to perform the coordinated movements. So all the movements in our daily life which are very smooth, complete our purpose, and in an accurate manner are known as the coordinated movement. So for all these movements, the most important thing is the integrated action of the many muscles. Eating rice is not only the function of the hand. It requires the function of the shoulder, elbow, even the head muscles are also involved to keep my face in the correct position. So all the integrated action of the muscle which keep the posture in the correct manner and produce the smooth, accurate, and the purposeful movements are known as the coordinated movement. In this diagram, you can see a person is sitting on a stool. He is holding a pen which is attached with a clip and the stand, and he is writing something on a paper. So what he is doing? When he is writing something on a paper, he is performing that activity, and he is able to draw something, that is the accuracy. And if he is able to produce that complete activity, that is the purpose, and the integrated action which requires the posture efficiency, that he is also keeping his back, his neck, and his head in a right position. So all the integrated action of all the muscles to complete a smooth, accurate, and the purposeful activity are termed as the coordinated movement. This is one more example of the coordinated movement. Dancing. Dancing is all about the coordination. Coordination is with the hearing, with the vision, with the hand movement, with the leg movement, with the trunk movement, and kept on performing different activities in a beautiful rhythmical manner. So dancing is a very good example of the coordinated movements. But our daily life is also all about the coordinated movements. Whenever we go for the driving requires the proper coordination of ear, our vision, our hand movements, our limb, our legs, and it also requires the alertness. And we need to keep our posture in a good manner during the driving. So it is a coordinated movement. There is one more example of the coordinated movements is whenever girls try to apply the liner. So what is it? Requires proper coordination. the proper hand movement, the proper application, the right stroke. So whenever we perform an activity again and again, they become memorized in our memory. So they become the coordinated movements. All these movements require two things. The one is the muscle and the second one is the nervous control. If the muscle is not okay, it's impossible to perform the coordinated movement. If the brain is not okay, if the nervous control is disturbed, we are not able to perform the coordinated movement. So let's talk about the muscles. There are different classification of muscles, but in kinesiology, or if we talk about skeletal muscles, we can divide the muscles into the unipinate muscle or the multipinate muscle. But when we talk about the neuromuscular coordination, we need to address the action of the muscle. So according to the action of muscles are divided into four categories. The first one is the agonist. The second one is the antagonist, synergist, and the third one is the fixators. So I will go through each type of these muscles one by one. Agonist. These are also known as the prime movers. Prime movers mean those muscles which are responsible to produce a specific movement at a joint. Let's talk about the elbow. You are familiar with the upper limb movements. So at elbow, there are two movements. The one is the flexion, and the second one is the extension. So these two movements are at the elbow. So flexion is by the flexors of the elbow, and the extension is by the extensors. So whenever agonists contract, what will happen? They will produce the movement at that targeted joint. So elbow flexion is by the elbow flexor. The example is, you can see in the diagram, a person is trying to bend the elbow. Bend, you can also say the person is trying to move the hand towards the shoulder. This is the elbow flexion. And the muscle which is contracting, which is the prime mover in this, is the bicep brachii. So prime movers are responsible for the protection of a movement at a targeted joint. These movements are present at all parts of the body. Suppose, in case of a neck, if I want to bend, if I want to flex my neck, if I want to look down at something like this, so what I am doing? I'm doing flexion. And which muscles are agonists? Friends, interior neck muscles are the agonists. These are the neck flexors. So if I talk about the hand, these are the flexors of hand and these are the extensors of hand. So whenever I bend, whenever I close my fingers, this is the flexion. So the agonists are the flexors. But whenever we perform any activity, whenever a muscle contracts, there is always a muscle which relaxes, which allow that movement. So any activity is not only done by the agonist, there is always required the proper relaxation of the opposite muscle that is known as the antagonist. Antagonist is opposite and the agonist mean to the agonist. So those muscles which act opposite to the agonist are the antagonists. So if we talk about the elbow flexion, the bicep is responsible for the elbow flexion. But what happens if the tricep is not able to relax? If tricep is not allowing the movement, we will not be able to bend the elbow. So whenever agonist contract, it requires the proper reciprocal relaxation of the antagonist. So the example is again in elbow flexion. If the bicep brachii is the agonist, then tricep is the antagonist. So elbow flexion requires the agonist action of the bicep and the antagonist relaxation of the tricep. If we talk about the opposite pattern in elbow extension, if we extend our elbow, these extensors, this tricep is acting as an agonist now, and the bicep is allowing the movement by relaxation. Now it is the antagonist. So whenever an activity is performed at any joint, agonist will shorten and the antagonist will lengthen. Agonist will contract and produce that movement, and antagonist will allow that movement. So I told you about the neck. If I'm able to bend my neck, if I'm able to flex my neck, of course, this is because of the contraction of the neck muscles, neck flexors. but the neck extensors are also lengthening to allow to move my head into the forward direction. So all the movements in our body, whenever we are closing our fist, whenever we are performing any of your elbow, hand, wrist, and shoulder, all the movements are the combination of contraction of agonist and relaxation of the antagonist. In this diagram, you can see now the action is opposite. In this diagram, now the elbow is going into the extension. The tricep is the agonist. Now the bicep is working as a relaxing muscle as an antagonist. So all the movements are integrated action of agonist and the antagonist. This is one more example from the lower limb. Let's talk about the knee joint. There are two movements at the knee joint. One is the flexion and the one is the extension. So whenever we extend our knee, the muscles, the quadricep muscle contract. Whenever we extend our knee, the quadricep muscles will contract. Quadriceps are knee extensors and the hamstrings are the knee flexors. So what will happen when we extend the knee? Quadricep will contract, will shorten, and the hamstring will allow this extension by relaxation. So in the opposite manner, when a person is bending the knee, now he's flexing the knee. So the main muscle which will act as an agonist is the hamstring, and the opposite muscle which will allow this flexion by the relaxation is the quadricep. You can see in this track, this is the knee extension by the quadricep, and the second one is the knee flexion with the help of the hamstrings. So all our body parts or all joints movements are the integrated action of all the agonist and the antagonist. One more example in running or walking. This is the proper coordinated action of many agonists and antagonists. So you can see the hamstring is contracting and quadricep is lengthening. And in the next movement, what will happen? They will act opposite. So agonist can act as an antagonist and antagonist can act as an agonist. It will depend upon the movement which a person is performing. The next one is the synergist. Whenever we are doing our activity, I'm now right bending my elbow. The shoulder is at a place, the hand is at a place. So there are some other muscles which directly do not take part in performing those movements. But what will they do? They will provide the proper background. So they will provide a proper background for the agonist. So agonist can perform very well. What will they do? They will fixate the proximal joint or the distal joint. Or you can also say that these muscles change the direction of the pull or can stabilize the joint in case the agonist is the two joint muscle. So synergists are not directly take part in the movement, but they will help to improve the efficiency of the agonist. So in this diagram, you can see the example of the elbow flexion. In elbow flexion, bicep brachii is the main agonist for the production of the elbow flexion. You can see the person is holding the glass in the hand. In this diagram, you can see there are two other muscles which are the part of elbow flexion. So one is the bicep, one is the brachialis, and the second one is the brachioradialis. They are not acting as a pure flexor, they are acting as a synergist. What they are doing, they're keeping the proximal, they are keeping the distal joint in a fixed, stabilized position so the bicep can perform activities in a proper, efficient manner. This is one more example of synergist. So in this, whenever you can see in this, the girl is holding a dumbbell in the pronated position. So in this position, at the distal end, the pronated teres is acting as a synergist to keep the forearm in the right position, and the deltoid is fixing the shoulder joint. So bicep is the prime mover for the flexion, but the one at the proximal is the deltoid, which is fixing the shoulder joint, and at the lower end is the is the pronator teres, which is fixing the forearm. So whenever we perform any kind of activity, agonist and antagonist require a help from the synergist to keep the proximal or the distal joint in a proper position and to add the efficiency. There is one more kind of muscle, the action of the muscle, that is the fixation. There are some muscles which doesn't take part in contraction or relaxation, and they do not help. What will they do? They will stabilize the proximal part. So by the stabilization of the proximal part, what will happen? The movement will be efficient. Most of the time, when we perform the repeated activities or the continuous activities, or when we face a huge amount of resistance, these sectors are very important because they improve that efficiency and they provide the proper stability. The example is in the diagram. You can see a person is lying. So he is performing the hip flexion. Hip flexion is by the hip flexors, the iliacus, and the soft major. You can see in the, but to perform the hip flexion, the trunk must be in a proper position. The stability of trunk is required, which you can see is done by the abdominal muscles. So if I am moving the shoulder movements, my trunk must be stabilized, must be fixed in a proper manner. So there are muscles which act as an agonist for production of the contraction. There are muscles which relaxes and allows the contraction of the agonist or the antagonist. And there are some muscles which help to improve the efficiency of agonist and antagonist, is the synergist. And there are muscles which provide the stability, secure stability. These are the fixators. So these are the four types of group action of the muscles, classification of muscle according to the action of the muscles. This is one more diagram. You can see in this, whenever we perform any activity of the shoulder, of the limb, the scapular muscles act as a fixator, the rhomboid, latissimus dorsi, and these muscles keep the scapula and the trunk and the spine in the erected position. This is one more diagram about the elbow flexion. The prime mover is the bicep, synergist is the brachialis, antagonist is the tricep, and the fixator are the rhomboids or the scapular muscle. So whenever we are performing any activity at the elbow, it's not just about the elbow, it's about the shoulder, it's about the scapula. So all these activities require the proper coordination. After muscle classification, the next thing which is very important is the nervous control. How these muscles are performing the different activities, of course, by the nervous system, by the nervous control. And in the nervous control, the four parts which are responsible for the production of the coordinated movement. The one is the motor pathways, and the second one is the cerebral cortex, and the third one is the cerebellum. The fourth one is the kinesthetic sensation. I will go through these parts one by one. Motor pathways. We are familiar that each muscle is supplied by efferent impulses or the nerve supply by the motor pathways. You're familiar with the nerve supply of all the muscles. All the muscles are supplied by the nerve. So what will happen? If the nerve is damaged, of course, muscle will not be able to produce that contraction. Muscle will not be able to perform any activity. In case of the wrist drop, the radial nerve is damaged. So what will happen? Muscles are normal, but there's no nerve supply. The person will not be able to produce the activity. So you can see upper limb, lower limb, and the trunk, all the muscles are supplied by the motor pathways. So one basic thing which is required for the coordinated action is the motor pathways. The second one is the cerebral cortex. Whenever they perform voluntary movements, all are started from some kind of sensory stimulus. We can sense from sight, ear, eyes, smell, taste, and touch. So whenever we need to perform an activity, all the movements initiated with some kind of sensory stimulus. And that center of brain which is responsible for this initiation is the brainstem. The brain is divided into different parts. The one is the cerebral cortex, the second one is the cerebellum, and the third one is the brainstem. So among them, the brainstem is considered as the initiation center of all the movements. When the initiation center initiate a movement, it will send a signal to the cerebral cortex. Then what will cerebral cortex will do? Cerebral cortex will plan that activity, how to perform. If suppose you need to scratch your skin, so this is a sensory stimulus. So the brainstem will send a signal to the cerebral cortex, and the cerebral cortex will plan that activity that you have to move your shoulder, bend your elbow, and approach your hand at the part where you need to scratch. And this planning is by the cerebral cortex. So if you are sitting, are going outside the room. So you're planning from sitting to standing, then walking, and then going out of the room. Is the total planning is by the cerebral cortex, and this planning is preserved in the cerebral cortex. Throughout our life, we are doing different activities. When we kept on doing the same activities, the repetitions will add those patterns in the cerebral cortex. So cerebral cortex is responsible for all the planning of our integrated activities. The next thing, which is very important, is the cerebellum. Cerebellum is one more part of the brain. It is a receiving station. All the information, all the impulses are reaching at the cerebellum. You can see in this diagram, this small one, the posterior one is the cerebellum, and the larger part is the cerebral cortex. So cerebellum is receiving all the information from the peripheries, from the limbs, from the legs, even the cerebral cortex and the vestibular nucleus. So all the impulses, all the information is going to the cerebellum. So what will cerebellum do? Cerebellum then produce the harmonious movements. So cerebral cortex will plan, and cerebellum will produce that harmonious movement of the group action of the muscles. The next one is the kinesthetic sensation. These are the different impulses of the kinesthetic sensations which are produced from the proprioceptors. The Golgi tendon organs and the muscle spindles are the example of the kinesthetic sensation. These receptors are present in the muscles, tendon, and the ligaments. And what they will do, the main function of the Golgi tendon organ, muscle spindle, or you can say the proprioceptor, is to record the amount of contraction and relaxation our muscle is producing. If you are bending the elbow, what these proprioceptors will do, they will record the contraction and the relaxation. If you want to contract the muscle completely, the Golgi tendon organs and the muscle spindle will sense it. If you want to keep it in the mid position, the Golgi tendon organ and the muscle spindle will sense it. So the main thing is to record the amount of contraction and relaxation required to perform a particular activity. And the next thing, knowledge of movement. If you want to walk, which movements are required? If you want to put something in your mouth, which movements are required at elbow, at shoulder, at hand, and at wrist joint? So it's knowledge of movement. And the second one is position of the limbs. In which position you can perform any activity by keeping in a proper postural. So it was about their coordination. The coordination movements are